Lesson 2, why teach financial literacy? It's not how much money you make, it's how much money you keep. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to, finally, Chapter 2 of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which I can show you very easily on BIGO, but we're also recording on Zoom, and on Zoom, I've got a background, and, oh, there we go. You can actually see the cover of the book this time around. Perfect. So we've been reading Chapter 1 for a while. There's quite a few recordings on YouTube of that one. We split it up into lots of different sections. We're up to Chapter 2 now, so I'm excited to start reading that one. We'll get straight into it, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about how you can get in touch and what we are doing. And I'll give some commentary throughout, which is the whole idea of what we are doing here with this reading. So let's get into it. It's great having you here. And yeah, lesson 2, why teach financial literacy? It's not how much money you make, it's how much money you keep. In 1990, Mike took over his father's empire and is, in fact, doing a better job than his dad did. We see each other once or twice a year on the golf course. He and his wife are wealthier than you could imagine. Rich Dad's empire is in great hands, and Mike is now grooming his son to take his place, as his dad has groomed us. In 1994, I retired. I was 47, and my wife Kim was 37. Retirement does not mean not working. For us, it means that barring unforeseen cataclysmic changes, we can work or not work, and our wealth grows automatically, staying ahead of inflation. Our assets are large enough to grow by themselves. It's like planting a tree. You water it for years, and then one day it doesn't need you anymore. Its roots are implanted deep enough. Then the tree provides shade for your enjoyment. Mike chose to run the empire, and I chose to retire. Whenever I speak to groups of people, they often ask what I would recommend that they do. How do I get started? Is there a book you would recommend? What should I do to prepare my children? What is your secret to success? How do I make millions? Whenever I hear one of these questions, I'm reminded of the following story: the richest businessman. In 1923, a group of our greatest leaders and richest businessmen held a meeting at the Edgewater Beach Hotel in Chicago. Among them were Charles Schwab, head of the largest independent steel company; Samuel Insull, president of the world's largest utility; Howard Hobson, head of the largest gas company; Ivar Kruger, president of International Match Company, and one of the world's largest companies at the time, Leon Fraser, president of the Bank of International Settlements; Richard Whitney, president of the New York Stock Exchange; Arthur Cotton and Jesse Livermore, two of the biggest stock speculators; and Albert Fall, a member of President Harding's cabinet. 25 years later, 9 of these titans ended their lives as follows. Schwab died penniless after living for 5 years on borrowed money. Insull died broke in a foreign land, and Kruger and Cotton also died broke. Hobson went insane. Whitney and Albert Fall were released from prison, and Fraser and Livermore committed suicide. That gives you a lot to think about, doesn't it? I doubt if anyone can say what really happened to these men. If you look at the date 1923, it was just before the 1929 market crash and the Great Depression, which I suspect had a great impact on these men and their lives. The point is this: today we live in times of greater and faster change than these men did. I suspect that there will be many booms and busts in the coming years that will parallel the ups and downs these men faced. We had 2008. We've had challenges since the pandemic has started. I will leave the politics aside. We've had lots of different things. 1987 crash, 1991 recession here in Australia, and we can go on and on and on. And so lesson 2, we start by having a look at the fact that you need to set things up well to be able to withstand these things, and the fact that things are getting more and more out of control. Rich Dad said when America went off the gold standard, that things would start to become more challenging. And we've done okay for a while, but there are some strange things lurking around the corner. I've done a video on YouTube at the Passive Cashflow Club where I talk about inflation and what has happened to the amount of money that's being printed. And they will say that there's not that much inflation, but I have seen, based on the numbers and some of the things that have been happening, that there is a lot going on. So the more you learn right now, the more important it is. And the more you learn to protect yourself, the better it is. Because even people who are successful right now, the rules are about to change. Things are about to happen for quite certain. Because it's almost impossible things keep going the way they are right now, if you ask me and many other successful people. I am concerned that too, many people are too focused on money and not on their greatest wealth, their education. If people are prepared to be flexible, keep an open mind and learn, they will grow richer and richer despite tough changes. They think money will solve problems, they will have a rough ride. Intelligence solves problems and produces money. Money without financial intelligence is money soon gone. Most people fail to realize that in life, it's not how much money you make, it's how much money you keep. We've all heard stories of lottery winners who are poor, then suddenly rich, then poor again. They win millions, yet are soon back to where they started. Or stories of professional athletes who at the age of 24 are earning millions, but are sleeping under a bridge 10 years later. If you do not have the education, if you didn't make the money using your own brain and intelligence, then it becomes extremely difficult using job-mindedness to be able to hold on to money that is beyond the scope of having a job and earning a salary. If you have money and you want to invest it, but you haven't learned to invest it on a small scale and then a larger scale and a larger scale, if you go too big too soon, you're going to get into trouble. If you win the lottery and you want to invest that money, but you've never invested before, then you're potentially going to invest more money than you can, and you don't know what you're doing, so it is going to disappear like that. I remember a story of a young basketball player who a year ago had millions. Today, at just 24, he claims his friend's attorney and accountant took his money. He was forced to work at a car wash for minimum wage. And this happens so often. We trust people around us, and people around us who have less than us potentially are going to also want to have some. They are jealous of the fact that we have something. They are not certain how to attain what we have. And so they'll use just about any means necessary sometimes in order to be able to get some for themselves. This is rudimentary thinking. It's very ancient thinking, but this is how our brains work. We need resources. We know we need resources. There are rules in place, but very often we will circumnavigate those rules in order to be able to find a different way, because we know we need the money. This is why it's so important to be able to learn from chapter 1 how to disassociate yourself from the job and the societal norms so that you can create for yourself. I remember I used to have 500 euros in my wallet, and people would say to me, aren't you worried about, because I used to study in Europe, by the way. So people would say, aren't you worried about somebody mugging you or losing it? And I'd say, it doesn't bother me because I know that I can make it back very quickly anyhow. And that is what you need to be doing. He was fired from the car wash because he refused to take off his championship ring as he was wiping off the cars. His story made national news, and he is appealing his termination, claiming hardship and discrimination. He claims that the ring is all he has left, and if it was stripped away, he'd crumble. You'd probably take it off and wash the car and then put it back on. I don't know. Anyhow, I know so many people who became instant millionaires, and while I'm glad some people have become richer and richer, I caution them that in the long run, it's not how much money you make, it's how much you keep, for how many generations you keep it, and I'm going to add to that, it's how you learn to deal with the money and how smart you are with coming up with ways to keep it. So when people ask, where do I get started? Or tell me how to get rich quick, they often are greatly disappointed with my answer. I simply say to them what my rich dad said to me when I was a little kid. If you want to be rich, you need to be financially literate. That idea was drummed into my head every time we were together. As I said, my educated dad stressed the importance of reading books, while my rich dad stressed the need to master financial literature. If you are going to build the Empire State Building, the first thing you need to do is dig a deep hole and pour a strong foundation. If you're going to build a home in the suburbs, all you need to do is pour a 6-inch slab of concrete. Most people in their drive to get rich are trying to build an Empire State Building on a 6-inch slab. Our school system, created in an agrarian age, still believes in homes with no foundation. Dirt floors are still the rage. So kids graduate from school with virtually no financial foundation. One day, sleepless and deep in debt in suburbia, living the American dream, they decide that the answer to their financial problems is to find a way to get rich quick. Construction on the skyscraper begins. It goes up quickly, and soon, instead of the Empire State Building, we have the Leaning Tower of suburbia. The sleepless nights return. As for Mike and me in our adult years, both of our choices were possible because we were taught for a strong financial foundation when we were just kids. Accounting is possibly the most confusing, boring subject in the world. But if you want to be rich long term, it could be the most important subject. For Rich Dad, the question was how to take a boring and confusing subject and teach it to kids. The answer he found was to make it simple by teaching it in pictures. My Rich Dad poured a strong financial foundation for Mike and me. Since we were just kids, he created a simple way to teach us. For years, he only drew pictures and used few words. Mike and I understood the simple drawings, the jargon, the movement of money, and then in later years, Rich Dad began adding numbers. Today, Mike has gone on to master much more complex and sophisticated accounting analysis because he's had to in order to run his empire. I'm not as sophisticated because my empire is smaller, yet we come from the same simple foundation. Over the following pages, I offer to you the same simple line drawings Mike's dad created for us. Though basic, these drawings helped guide two little boys in building great sums of wealth on a solid and deep foundation. Rule number 1, you must know the difference between an asset and a liability and buy assets. And we'll continue with that after it or in the next video. So what do you think of the chapter so far? I would love to know. So I am a true believer in the need to educate yourself financially, to understand as much as you can about stocks and real estate and different other things, asset protection, etc., etc. Now, not all things are going to interest you, so you also need to know and learn to figure out what interests you and where your skills are so that you can use those skills. Now, it's also good to shore up some of your weaknesses, but I am a true believer that if you already have the skills, you need to work on those and you can hire and outsource the work of the things that you are less good at. So I am looking forward to your thoughts. If you've missed any of the previous reading of the book or the other book that we read, The Art of Thinking Clearly, you can go to YouTube and see the Passive Cashflow Club, and you'll be able to find the old videos there, and you can catch up and get my commentary on those videos, and I'd love to see you there. Now, we also have plans, because it's still just before 2022, we also have plans to add some other great types of video content. So make sure you hit subscribe when you're there so that you can also be notified when other kinds of videos are going to be uploaded, because we have plans to do more than just my reading series. I really want to be able to see everybody who's here either take the lessons from this book and implement it in real life, or if you're already implementing it in real life, taking it to the next level so that you are detached from what society wants you to do, and you are detached from just the job, and you know that there are other options for you and that the sky is the limit with regards to what you can do, so that you have any options. So if you lose it all, if you lose your job, if you lose all of your cash, you lose all of your bank accounts, you'd be able to start over with no challenges whatsoever. The more you understand how the rules work, the more opportunities you have, and the more the easier it is for you to be able to start fresh without any challenges. Okay, so you can join us there, and I'd love to see you and also hear your comments and see your thoughts on YouTube. There's also Instagram. You can see the posts that I'm putting up. You can reach out directly as well. We're also running cash flow events. So I run the Sydney Cashflow Club here, and we'd love to see you for a game of cash flow. And we also have an online version, which takes it to a whole new level. There is more realistic taxation. There are a couple of other things that we've added in that are more realistic than just the board game, which keeps it nice and simple. Definitely make sure that you understand how to play the game on the basic level, and we'll organize events for that as well. We've got some amazing plans for 2022 to have beginner nights, to have more advanced nights, so that you can progress through. and also strategies to help you in real life, whether you are starting out and need to do something in real life, or whether you already are and want to take it to the next level. So we have lots of support plans and different activities that are going to be useful for you. So feel free to reach out on Instagram if you'd be interested in that as well. So you can find me at business_team_6_official. So find me there, send me a direct message, and I will get my virtual assistant to be able to send you the information that you require. And yeah, I'd love to see you on YouTube, at Instagram, or even at a Cashflow game, and get to know you and follow your journey in 2022 and support you in whatever way I can. Because I know that nothing that we do is something that we can do on our own. Without Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, without his friend Mike, he would have only had the information from his poor dad to rely on, and Robert Kiyosaki's life would be totally different. I doubt that he'd be up on stage, have the amount of money that he has, or even have gotten beyond just working for somebody else without his rich dad. And so I also want to be able to be there for you and support you in whatever way I can, so that you can also live the life of your dreams, the life that you desire. So thank you so much for joining. Tomorrow we will continue with more from Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad. We will continue reading chapter 2. We left off at, you must know the difference between an asset and a liability and buy assets. So we'll talk about that when we read the rest of chapter 2, starting there. So thanks again for joining. Have an amazing day, and keep working on that financial literacy, because it's going to do so much good for you.